Good evening and welcome to Mr. Wilson's CSEC Biology HSB Live. We're streaming from Jamaica. We want to welcome all those persons who are on for the first time, and for those persons who are always here. To you, we continue to appreciate the fact that you take the time out to be with us. This evening, we want to do a repeat of homeostasis, and we're going to be looking at the eye as well. As much as possible, we'll be doing that. You know, on a Sunday evening, I have to travel from pretty far. So at times I tend to be here a little late. So I do apologize for that, but we're here locked, loaded, ready to go. I know that persons from Guyana and Trinidad, when the time gets a little late, it's sort of difficult for them. So I find it a little difficult to push back the time. However, I try to push myself to be here on time. But how are you doing? I do hope that everything is fine. I got the 2018 paper. It was sent to me, I think, over the weekend, and we're going to be looking at that. I think that there are some missing questions. We're going to be looking on that. But I do hope that you are doing well wherever you are in the Caribbean, and I'm happy to announce, Jawawan, big up yourself. I'm happy to announce that persons who are having problem with the nephron, I have completed the animation for the nephron, and I can sort of give myself a thumb up. It's not the best thing to give yourself praise, but I think that as soon as we make this animation available come tomorrow evening, persons will be saying that it is a pretty good lesson, and I'm sure persons will be understanding it much better because we have broken it down pretty much like we have the diffusion video. So good evening, Jawawan. Good evening, Moore. Good evening, Didi. I saw V from Clarendon. Good evening to you. All the family is growing, and I'm very happy for that. So how are we? Let me hear. Good or bad? How are we doing? How are we doing? Answer for me. I'm doing good. I'm doing bad. Let me see if the mic is working and everybody is hearing, and then we can hop right into what we were doing. Are you following the live? Are you replaying the live? Are you at a loss what is happening? Because our concern here is not about giving you a lot of notes. Our concern here is to ensure that you learn. So if we find that something is going wrong, we're going to slow down what we're doing and try to reach you in whatever way we can. So let me see what's happening here. Looking forward for that. Okay. Good considering COVID. Yes. Great. Ready to learn. Wonderful. Yes, I am a lot of the times, and I replay. Beautiful. So persons are replaying the videos. Persons are watching the video. Now, last week when we had the class, and it was Friday, I think, we were looking at homeostasis. And based on the responses that we were getting from the chat, it suggested to us at the time that persons weren't understanding what was being presented. The same was true for the nephron, and what we did, instead of reteaching the nephron, I think the nephron is really where the problem is, and of course, how it works. So we did do this thing, and there wasn't any picture to it. So persons were having problem. Persons were saying that I don't understand the distal convoluted tubule versus the proximal convoluted tubule, and there was this thing about first and second convoluted tubule, which is also correct. So what we did a complete video, and we added all that to it, and I'm sure as soon as we make it available come tomorrow, you will be enjoying it. Yes, I watch over the videos, and plus I did some on my own, some research. All right, beautiful. It's always good to do research. For those persons who are joining us for the first time, this is probably one of the only online classes that we ask that you use the textbook to follow the lesson, because we don't have the beauty of probably good cameras to project pictures and all of that. And they are very expensive. If we were supposed to use person's picture and all of that, we'd have to purchase it. And we are not financed by anyone or any group. So, of course, you understand we have that limitation. So, Jawawan, you had some problem on Friday. Do we go homeostasis? Are you good with it now? Sir, I am really sorry to leave just for a short time, though. That's fine. That's fine. We'll be here waiting for you, and the replay will be here. That's fine. All right. It happens like that every now and then. Jawawan, how are you with the content that we were presenting Friday? Are you better now? Do we need to touch it again? Because we pretty much slowed down the lesson. There was something that we were supposed to have taught then, and we did not. And we are going to be looking at that. But I want to know if I should go from start or just continue where we left off. I kind of, huh? I'm not sure. All right, so kind of understand it. That's beautiful. One of the things I like to tell my learners is that not understanding is a very important part of understanding. Because if you don't understand, it speaks to the fact that there was a point when you understood. So the fact that you're not understanding, it means that, hey, there's something here, there's some gaps to be bridged. And I want any student, every student, if you don't understand what we're presenting, let us know. And if we are talking to you and you're not responding in the chat, it tells us one thing. You don't understand. I'm over your head. I'm going too fast, that type of thing. And then I come and I try to dig and find stuff. I just have to continue. All right, you have to continue. But tell me, Jawawan, where are you at school on the syllabus? What topic are you covering? All right, that's very important because, like we said, we are going to be going a little faster, trying to cover a topic per class. But if our learners cannot manage that, then we are going to cut back because we want to complete the syllabus for the exam and to give you enough content so that you can practice and also allow ourselves space that you can ask questions. All right, beautiful. I think we're having a log this evening again, but we will go. Treasure, how are you doing? Good evening, good evening, good evening. If I miss you, I'll pick you up in the lesson, so don't worry yourself. As soon as I see the names, I will call them out. So we have a video out on homeostasis already, but we're going to do it again for those persons who were having problems. So I'm going to be starting this lesson exactly how I started the one before. My question to you, tell me in the chat, what is your understanding of homeostasis? What is homeostasis? All right, and remember that I rely on the quick feedback. Quick feedback means that you are on board. If you take a little time to give me some response, then I have to go ahead with the content. I can't just have the show login. All right, so one of the important things about homeostasis is that it prevents illness and, of course, what could have been eventual death. But we want to know what it is. What is homeostasis? And we're teaching biology today practical, as if we were teaching woodwork or mason or whatever. Anything that I'm going to teach you today, you have to learn to visualize it. You'll have to find that happening within yourself. All right? So what is homeostasis? All right, I'm going to give the definition, but you still can put it in the chat. So homeostasis is pretty much the way in which the body maintains its a constant internal environment. Despite the environment is always changing, the body has mechanism to ensure that that constant internal environment is maintained. So Jawawan is saying homeostasis is the way the constant condition in the body, constant conditions in the body are maintained in spite of changes in the surrounding. All right, we soon get back to that because that is a definition, and to some persons it means nothing at all. Macmillan, big up yourself. Macmillan is saying that it's a maintenance of a constant internal environment within our body. All right, beautiful. Outside of the fancy thing that all those are outside of the fancy thing I said just now about the importance, illness, and death, I want to put a little more meaning to that these two nice definitions that are here. Now, you would understand. Let me give you an idea. I don't know how many persons can drive. Can you imagine you're going to the car, and because it's raining, the brake doesn't hold, or because it's too sunny, the brake doesn't hold, or because you're driving on a steep hill, the brake doesn't work, or because you're driving around some corners, the brake doesn't work? Now, if you have that unreliable system, then it means that when you leave out, you might not reach home. Now, the body has things like enzymes, and we know the properties of enzyme because I have a video out there already. Treasure, coming to your thing. All right, we have a video out there. So the body has this mechanism that it makes sure that everything is pretty much at a level that it can be understood by the enzymes and by other systems. Now, this up and down and fluctuation, if the body were supposed to work like that, probably today, like I said in some example ago, probably today we would look like a lizard, and tomorrow we look like a rat, and the other day we look like a mongoose. Today our face is all filled with pimples. Tomorrow it's all filled with streaks or something like that. right? So the body doesn't work like that. The body tries to ensure that despite things are happening within the body, in order for the reactions to take place in the body, it ensures that there's this commonality, this common ground on which it can operate, right? And we're going to be looking at these two major common ground where we spoke about negative feedback mechanism and positive feedback mechanism. So when we talk about homeostasis, we are pretty much just talking about the body ensuring that everything is at equilibrium, right? Everything is pretty much at a place where the organs, the cells, the reaction can remember them. That's figuratively, right? So that there won't be any problem when we start to have our reactions in the body taking place. All right, so Treasure was saying homeostasis is the maintenance of a constant internal environment. And we're going to be giving you some examples. Now, one of the next questions I'd ask in that class is how homeostasis work. Now, homeostasis, how it works is that if there's too little of something, then it will bring it up just to enough. And if there's too much of something, then it will bring it to a point where it is just enough. So what it does, like we said, is to work to maintain that balance. Now we're going to be looking at details as to how it really works. So we're going to be going a little further into the lesson now, and we're going to be talking now about negative feedback mechanism. So we already have the definitions. If I ask you what is homeostasis, today, tomorrow, when the exam comes, it is pretty much the same definition. So I'm going to now give you some negative feedback mechanism. And before we get into the fancy dancy of all the nice definitions, you will have to have an appreciation of these happening within you. Now, if you can't understand it happening within you, stop the lesson and let me go again. If I have to teach this for the entire evening, I'm willing to do so. But at the end of the class, you must understand. I'm not here just to give notes. No, I'm here for you to learn. So negative feedback mechanism, what is your understanding of it? That's a good place to start. What's your understanding of negative feedback mechanism? Because we have spoken about positive feedback mechanism. So now we want to know, what do you understand from the negative feedback mechanism? All right, so we want to know and when we talk about homeostasis, some of the things that I'm waiting on the responses. Some of the things that homeostasis will work to ensure that it is pretty much at constant, are pretty much where the body can operate equilibrium. Temperature, and I hope you'll be able to relate to that. We can talk about blood pressure. We can talk about water balance. We'll be talking about sugar, the balance of sugar, pH, metabolism, and breathing. I think I'm going to be talking about metabolism the first thing this evening, because I know that everybody can relate to that. I'm sure of that. All right. So Jawawan is out of the block first. She's saying here that the negative feedback mechanism is where your body reverse change. I'm not too sure I understand that, and I'm not too sure you understand that. That is occurring. I'm not sure that you understand that, but that if that is your best definition, I'm going to correct it. If your definition is so good that you understand, when you share it with me, I should understand. When you share it with Treasure should understand, or Macmillan should understand. So the fact that you give us a definition that says reverse and it's sort of little thing, we want it right on the spot. So I'm going to give you my definition. It is a negative feedback mechanism. This is a mechanism in which the body acts to bring back condition to normal or equilibrium. So to bring back is equivalent to say reverse, right? But I'm not too sure. Good evening, how you doing, De Souza? All right. So when we talk about negative feedback mechanism, we're talking about the body acting on a condition to bring it back to equilibrium. And I did use a pen last week when I was teaching, And I said that, you know, that equilibrium is like in the middle. Persons like to say equilibrium is in the middle, but I hate to use in the middle. It's just about the amount that the body finds ideal. Because if we were supposed to talk about temperature in the middle, probably would look at 100 and say 50 is in the middle. So we don't want to do that. It's it's ideal for the body. So when we say equilibrium, we were saying that it is something like this. Or if it's falling off here, it might be too small. Or if it's falling off here, it might be too much. So what the body does is to try to get it back here, just at a balance where it can really work. So negative feedback mechanism is the body mechanism in which it acts to bring back a condition to normal or equilibrium. The nice word here is normal, not even equilibrium, like normal. So let us look at some examples, and these examples will of course help us to drive the point home. When is a change in a condition is when a change in condition is detected, it acts to bring it back to normal or set point. I like set point and I like normal. I am a little weary with equilibrium because equilibrium could mean in the middle, but normal doesn't necessarily mean in the middle. So I like the set point and I like normal. These are two nice words to use when we're talking about negative feedback mechanism. So I'll relate to you something that I experienced today. I was on the road yesterday, all busy, trying to make some bucks. All right, because I volunteer a lot, so I have to work extra to sort of treat with this. It doesn't come free. So I was in today. I was a little busy again, and other persons were also busy, and I got a little hungry because I did not eat for some time. You know, I was all caught up in what I was doing. And then what happened is that as I continued to prepare for this class, I felt as if it was sort of burning me out preparing for the class. I started feeling a little sleepy. I started feeling a little tired. I started feeling a little way because I knew what was happening. It's that metabolism slowed down. And metabolism slowed down because I did not eat and the body does not have enough energy to do what I want to do. So when we are hungry, metabolism is a negative feedback mechanism that when you are hungry, metabolism will slow down to allow you to live with less food. Understand? Metabolism will allow you to live with less food. So here it is, I am hungry and I'm putting in this whole lot of work preparing for class. The body is not going to allow me to do that. The body is going to slow down and I'm going to have less energy. I'm going to feel like I want to sleep and all of that. That is a negative feedback mechanism that it is saying that, listen to me, this has to be corrected. The body should have more energy. So tell you what, get some more food. So as soon as I got something to eat, I was back up and ready to do what I have to do. So when you are feeling hungry and you start feeling a little drag and you have to get some food, it is pretty much a good example of a negative feedback mechanism where the glucose level is low, you have to increase it. Right? That's a good example. If you ever if you can't remember anything about the negative feedback mechanism, remember metabolism. When you are hungry, the body is calling for some more food. It is telling you something. We have to fix this. The sugar level is too low. Now, another good one is temperature. Everyone would recall temperature. We looked at vasodilation, we looked at vasoconstriction. Now, temperature, the regulation of temperature is very, very important in the body because we will all agree that most enzymes are going to operate at about 37 degrees Celsius. Now, the enzymes are operating at 37 degrees Celsius, and you went out into the sun, or you are working beside a furnace, and the temperature get really high, and the body is unable to regulate that, then you understand that the enzymes will be denatured. Now, if the enzymes are denatured and cannot carry out their activity, then you understand that the many chemical reactions in the body will not take place. Now, if these chemical reactions are not taking place, then eventually you'll die. We also spoke about hyperthermia. where we talk about this increase in temperature, and if the negative feedback mechanism cannot bring back that to set point, the temperature to set point, then you suffer from this hyperthermia condition, overeating, and you'll die. We also spoke about hypothermia, where the body temperature goes down too low, and not even shivering can help. And then if that doesn't happen, then you'll die. But the body's response with temperature on a normal day, where we talk about temperature regulation, the body response, if you are too hot, what will the body do? Tell me in the chat there. I won't talk away all the lesson. Tell me in the chat there, Jawawan. Tell me in the chat, Macmillan, more. De Sosa, if your body is too hot, what is that negative feedback mechanism that will chip in to ensure that the body temperature go down? Talk to me, somebody. You are going to sweat. That's a good one. What else? We could put in this big fancy word. Remember those big fancy word V, that V word? That V word? Sweat. Sweat is a good word, but sweat would fall in the group of things that would happen with that V word. So if the body is too hot, then the negative feedback mechanism is going to chip in vasodilation. Beautiful. It's going to chip in vasodilation, and then the blood vessels are going to flow close to the skin. The pores will be open. You'll be sweating, and of course, you see what is going to happen. The body is doing all that it can do in order for the temperature to go down. The ear and the skin will lie down and all of that, and then the temperature is supposed to go down. Now, if the body is too cold, what is that negative feedback mechanism that will chip in? Talk to me, somebody. I love what I'm seeing. It sounds to me as if you are doing better now with homeostasis and the negative feedback mechanism. So now the body is too cold. What is going to happen? Talk to me, somebody. You are now going to start shivering. Shivering, those muscles under the skin, they are going to have some rapid contraction, because respiration is going to generate a whole lot of heat energy to warm the body up. And that falls pretty much under vasoconstriction. And when we talk about vasoconstriction, the blood vessels there, they are constricting and going deeper into the skin so as to retain the heat. You won't be losing heat in the water. And that is a negative mechanism in order to regulate the body temperature. And remember, the temperature of the body is always going to be detected by the hypothalamus in the brain as the blood flows over the hypothalamus. I like what I'm seeing here. It suggests to me that we are learning. All right, very good. If you're watching out there in distant land and you like the show, please be reminded to like, share, and of course, subscribe. It's not too late for you to come on over and join the live chat. We're going to be talking now about blood pressure. Now, blood pressure too has a negative feedback mechanism, because we have to regulate the blood pressure. We spoke about that when we spoke about lactic acid when we were doing respiration. Forgive me, when I'm teaching, I tie up all the topics. I show you how this topic match with this topic, so get used to it. All right? If I've taught you something before, don't throw it away. I'm always going to use it going through the lesson. Now, with blood pressure, our blood is flowing at a pretty much constant rate. However, under some circumstances, the blood will flow faster. If you are anxious, then the rate of respiration will increase, and so too the flow of the blood will increase. All right? If you are hot, the flow of the blood will increase. If you are doing some strenuous activity, the flow of the blood will also increase. Now, what will happen is that these blood vessels will send some message to the brain, right? Providing that you're experiencing all this activity. And the brain will send message to the heart to say, listen to me, man. We need some more oxygen over there for some more respiration, and we need to get some water out of the body because the body is a little too hot. And the body is going to be losing some water, losing some energy. If we send some water to the skin, the heat will start to go away as the water evaporates. So the brain is going to talk pretty much to the heart, and the heart is going to say, okay, I think that's a very good idea. Tell you what, I'm going to increase my beats per second. So then the heart is going to now start beating a little faster, and then you're going to experience some vasodilation because it wants to get rid of the heat, had it been the heat, right? Or if it were supposed to be the oxygen in the blood, the oxygen level being very low, then the same is true. The heart is going to beat a little faster in order to get rid of the carbon dioxide, as it were, when we have this lactic buildup and we have to have the satisfy the oxygen depth. The same thing we're talking about here when we talk about the negative feedback mechanism. So when we are panting there for the breath after the 15,000 race that we have run, that's a good example of the negative feedback mechanism. We are trying to bring back the oxygen level to that level where it should be, bring back the carbon dioxide to the accepted level, and of course, bring back the flow of the blood to that level. So we have to remove that excess carbon dioxide, get back that oxygen in the blood, and then we would have compensated for that. So that is a nice example of the negative feedback mechanism. So the negative feedback mechanism could simply mean we are adding or we are subtracting, but the objective is to get to that point. I think Macmillan said it, the set point or the point of norm. That's what I like. Equilibrium, it is said equilibrium, but I just gave you reasons why I don't like equilibrium, because when you get to the exam and you can't remember, you're going to interpret equilibrium to mean the middle. And I don't want persons to interpret it being the middle, because I spoke about temperature. If you were supposed to interpret temperature as being 100 for the max, which is not the max, person might say, well, the body temperature is 50, which is not. All right. So I don't like the equilibrium thing. I like the set point and I like the normal, but you can choose whichever one you like. Now, so we spoke about 3 just now: negative feedback mechanism. We spoke about metabolism. We spoke about temperature. We spoke about blood pressure, and we are going to be talking about water balance. And we're going to be going through them more. We are doing the practical part of it now, where I want you to relate to what you know. That's what I'm doing now. All right. Everybody get hungry every now and then. I'm relating to that. Everybody get hot every now and then. You can relate to that. And you can remember when you go to the exam that this is an example of negative feedback mechanism. And what I learned when I looked at the skin with vasodilation and vasoconstriction, I can use to support this. When we talk about blood pressure, what we spoke about when we spoke about lactic acid and the buildup of carbon dioxide, we can use to support this. We can also talk about obesity. When we spoke about obesity and we said that the narrowing of the lumen in the blood vessel, that's a space in the blood vessel. Now, if the space gets smaller, then the blood is going to be under higher pressure. Pretty much the same thing happens when we look at the glomerulus in the nephron. A whole lot of things I'm saying here, only a student who is studying can follow, because I'm going back to some stuff that you have forgotten about. I'm very sorry, but just jot it down in your book and write note briefly, and you'll be fine. Don't throw it away, all right? And when you replay, you do that for me. All right, beautiful. So we're going to be looking now at the water balance, and this is practical. Practical. So guess what? You're here, it's a very hot day. You were walking in the sun, you went to the shop, you went somewhere, and you started feeling thirsty. You started feeling really thirsty. I really want some water, right? The body is telling you that, listen to me, your blood is concentrated. It doesn't have enough water, right? And then what the body is going to do is going to ring on over to the pituitary gland there, and it's going to ask for some ADH. You are going to feel thirsty, and it's going to prompt you to go and get some water. And of course, to make the collecting duct and the distal convoluted tubule, and of course, to an extension, the loop of Henle, reabsorb some more water. We're going to get there in the lesson. Don't kill yourself right now. What I want you to remember about this negative feedback mechanism and the water balance is that when you feel thirsty, it's an example of a negative feedback mechanism in play. It wants to bring back the concentration of the blood to set point. I like that term, to set point. See where we're going? Beautiful. Give me a second. So we spoke about the set point if you are too hot. Now, if you are too cold, the body will also do something. If you have too much water in, the body will also do something to ensure that you get rid of the water. And again, it's going to, of course, secrete less ADH, so more water will be passed out in urine. And definitely, you won't feel thirsty. So you won't be adding to the problem that you have in the body already with dilute water, dilute blood. You won't be having that problem. And then I hope you can understand that. If you don't understand, say, no, sir, I don't understand. That's what I'm here for. I don't want to be here just talking to myself. No. I like when I feel my class. If I don't feel my class, I don't want to teach. All right. So we're going to be talking now about blood sugar. And this is a big one for the Caribbean because persons in the Caribbean tend to suffer a whole lot from diabetes. Like I said, we're doing the practical now, and we're going to get into the theory in a bit. Now, blood sugar. When we talk about diabetes mellitus, that's a fancy thing, or somebody might say sugar. If you're in Jamaica, we call it sugar. You might see somebody with their legs amputated or leg in a state that needs some help, or the person being thirsty, tired, all of this very often, right? This is something that is of great concern, and it is something that is on the paper. If you look at the multiple choice papers that I've worked so far, you would have seen diabetes mellitus being covered, and we're supposed to answer something there. Now, I'm going to give you a summary version of it. And when I give you the summary version of it today, I don't want you to go and study it. I want you to know it. I want you to know it. I want you to know it. So I'm going to say some words, and I want you to type them in the chat. And after you type them in the chat, we're going to know it thereafter. You are not supposed to go and study it after I'm finished. You are supposed to know it after today. All right? So we're going to talk about, I'm going to set the tone, and everything should be fine. So here we go. In Jamaica, we like rice and peas. And if you are probably not from the upper echelon or the affluent part of society, you'd probably like chicken back and dumpling like me. Yeah. And if you're from Guyana, like my friends Tanisha and Otisha, you like pepper pot. I'm not too sure what happens down there in Trinidad, but of course you like a good meal wherever you are from. And now, having consumed this meal, what is going to happen is that the blood sugar will go up. Now, when the blood sugar goes up, there are some things that we want to think about. I'm going to be calling some name now. So I want to think about this hormone called insulin that is secreted by the pancreas. So insulin, everybody knows insulin. All right. Somebody taking some insulin shot. For some reason, we tend to know insulin. I think everybody in the world would know insulin because Mr. Wilson knows insulin. All right. So when you have that whole lot of blood sugar, then insulin, I think it's on the front seat. I'm not too sure it is. Which of them? I'm very sorry, guys.
The tablet, the government tablet.
No, I don't have any tablets. Just the one on the front seat, I think.
That's the government tablet.
All right.
Here is here.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm sorry. All right. Just trying to get some device. I missed it there. All right. We're talking about insulin. All right. So insulin is secreted by the pancreas. The insulin converts glucose. So insulin is acting on glucose. Let us go with that again. Insulin, which is secreted by the pancreas, is acting on glucose that is in excess. Insulin that is secreted by the pancreas is acting on this glucose that is in excess. It is going to convert the glucose to a word that we learned when we were doing cells. When we were doing cells, we learned about glycogen. Glycogen. We learned that when we were doing cells, animal cell. All right. So the insulin will convert glucose to glycogen for it to be stored, and usually in the muscle and liver you find a whole lot of that being stored. Then when you need some added energy, like probably today before I got really to that point that I had to get something to eat, the body is going to ask now another hormone. The hormone now is called glucagon to increase the sugar level there. And what it will do is to now convert that glycogen back to glucose. So it is insulin acting on glucose to make it into glycogen, then glucagon acting on glycogen to make it into glucose. Now, also, you would have heard about in Jamaica, we have a lot of proverbs. I don't know about the other Caribbean island. I do hope that you can communicate using these codes. What we say, when trouble take your pitney short fit you. That's what we say in Jamaica. It's a folk talk. And to interpret it in science, it speaks to the fight and flight response which we get from that secretion of adrenaline. So adrenaline can also convert that that glycogen that was stored into glucose. Adrenaline can do that, and you get that extra burst of energy very, very quickly. Let me just go back now. So that was very slow. So we're going to do it fast now, and now it's time for learning. So we're looking at the negative feedback mechanism. And now we're looking at blood sugar. We're saying that when the blood sugar level is too high, then insulin will convert this extra sugar into glycogen and it is stored there. However, when you need this energy again, then there's another hormone called glucagon, which is going to convert the stored glycogen now into glucose, and you'll have that extra energy. All right, it's not a good example, but when students are fighting, they tend to have this extra burst of energy. They use up all the energy reserve because of the adrenaline there that is misleading them. All right, so we looked at a couple here. Is there any of them that you can tell me in the chat there which is new to you? Tell me in the chat there which is new to you before I run along with more, because we have a lot more to talk about. Tell me in the chat. Some are so close and they happen every day. I wouldn't even realize that they were happening. We really didn't realize. All right. Temperature as a negative feedback mechanism. Is that new to you? Yes or no? It's fine. Talk to me, somebody. I mean, if you're in church, you'd say amen or something like that. So is temperature as a negative feedback mechanism correcting temperature? Is that new to you? Somebody say something for me. I don't know. I think I'm having a lag. Doesn't the body use fat for energy? Yes, but we're not at fat now. Like I said to my group just now, I'm going to be giving them a practical, and then we're going to get into the details of things. But what I wanted to do is to bring home the content practically, so that persons can consume it as a practical, and then we get into the theory, because we're teaching this lesson for the second time. Some persons didn't understand much, so we are going really, really slow. Mr. Wilson slow. When Mr. Wilson is going slow, I'm leaving no stone unturned. I'm going to do the basics, and then I'm going to gradually get onto the fat thing. All right. So Tanisha, yes, we're going there. Your time soon come, Tanisha. You soon have it all locked. All right. Yes, 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 yes. It is. All right. Beautiful. So what, like I said, what I want you to do just now, this is a practical part of the class, is just to have an appreciation for some examples of negative feedback mechanism, right? And we started out looking at metabolism, and I relate my experience to you with being hungry. We spoke about temperature, and we spoke about vasodilation and vasoconstriction. We spoke about blood pressure. We spoke about water balance, and then I think we spoke about blood sugar. We didn't talk about breathing, but you now, having known about all the examples that we have given, you now can speak to that 1500-meter race. And of course, again, the oxygen depth, we're going to be using that one, and how you have to breathe to compensate for the oxygen depth. Again, that is a negative feedback mechanism. We're going to be looking at them in depth. Don't worry yourself too much. But what is very important is that you understand the basics and how we got there before I start throwing on you some more detailed stuff. All right. And I do hope that we're understanding. Remember, if at any time you don't understand, just let us know. This room is a very, very friendly room. And of course, nobody is going to be at you if you don't understand. All right. Because that is not tolerated here. So we just spoke about the negative feedback mechanism. Now we're going to be talking about the positive feedback mechanism. Positive feedback mechanism. And while in the negative feedback mechanism, We were working to get the thing back to the set point. I like that term, or the normal. With positive feedback mechanism, this is a mechanism in which the body secretes more of a substance to facilitate a process. Now, the syllabus really looks at the act of giving birth, where we spoke about oxytocin, and we're going to be talking about that very quickly now. But what we want to drive home, or the salient point here, is the fact that with positive mechanism, it's pretty much a mechanism in which secretion, positive feedback. All right, good, yes. So what we're having here is that the body is producing more. Remember, when we touch excretion, we spoke about secretion, we spoke about excretion, we spoke about egestion. So secretion, a nice word coming up here. Remember, we said that secretion was the body way of putting out useful substances. So here, of course, more has it pretty right here. The body is putting out more of something to enhance a process in the body. And a good example of this is, of course, oxytocin that is secreted when a woman is giving birth and when any animal is giving birth. All right, because as an agriculturalist, if the animal is having problem, we are going to inject the animal with oxytocin. Now, why we do that is that the oxytocin is going to cause the birth canal to stretch. All right, so it's going to cause the birth canal to stretch. It is also going to increase the strength and the frequency of the contraction. For those persons who have given birth or heard about persons giving birth, you would have heard the term contraction, right? In order for the baby to come through the birth canal. So oxytocin does that. And during the time of giving birth, this hormone is usually very, very high, or should be high. And if that is not the case and it is detected by the medical professional, what is going to happen is that they are going to give you an injection with the oxytocin to ensure that this process goes as is norm. All right? So I do hope we understand positive feedback mechanism versus negative feedback mechanism. All right. So we started talking, if there's any challenge, let me know in the chat. We started talking about temperature earlier, and temperature, when we talk about negative feedback mechanism and regulating our temperature, we're going to use a fancy term called homeothermy. Homeothermy. So now we are going a little bigger, a little deeper. We're putting some icing on the cake. Have you found it?
Yeah.
All right, good. Now, the homothermy, simply put, it is pretty much the body's way of regulating the internal temperature. And the internal temperature, we said, is about 37 degrees Celsius. I'm going to use an example that might be a little overboard now. If you're a minor and you can't take real graphic stuff, probably you should just step aside a little bit. But I want to use it because as scientists, we study what happens or what happened. And we have to look at it and see how we live and be safe for the future. So I'm going to be talking about two incidents in Jamaica, two incidents that were caught on tape. My love, my sentiment goes out to the family. I'm very sorry that your loved one was exposed to this, but I do seek your permission here to, of course, use these examples to, of course, educate persons that, of course, we won't have reoccurrence. There was a fire in Kingston, Jamaica. I'm not going to tell you exactly where. And there were some persons who got burnt. It was a gas fire. And they were able to walk out of that fire, and they were able to talk and communicate what happened. They were able to go to the hospital. They were able to be admitted. But sadly, they did not make it. They did not make it because the body was not able to regulate the temperature within norm during the time frame they were exposed to the fire. Despite when they came out, all was done to save them, it was too late. There was another fire last year, yes, last year, in rural Jamaica. This time it was a gas station. And person would have seen a fellow walking out who was exposed severely or really, really badly exposed to the fire, bad exposure. And this person too did not make it. But right after the fire, these persons were able to walk and talk and all of that. But of course, you understand that the enzymes, they work at a specific pH range and temperature range. So if the temperature or the pH increases beyond that, then of course it could mean death. So I say that to say that homothermy is very important. How we safeguard ourselves, how we, this HSB now, how we store chemicals around us, the type of building and the type of operation that is close to our home, our workplace, and all of that, that is very, very important. Because it doesn't mean that you have to get a gunshot to die. It doesn't mean that you'll have to catch COVID to die. It could mean that you have just exhausted some of the reaction, something in the body, and that could be not hearing. Is it my internet? Is anybody else having that problem? Not hearing? Based on what I'm seeing on my screen, it's saying that audio is going through. Macmillan, can you hear me? Macmillan, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Barnett is saying that she can't hear. No, I'm hearing fine, probably. Okay. Walker, you can't hear? I can hear. So Tanisha can hear, and Tanisha is over there in Guyana. I am hearing. Macmillan is hearing as well. Okay, I'm sorry. So you might have to catch us on the replay because I'm not too sure, and there's nothing I can do to my system, or else I'll have to shut down, and then you know what will happen. You have seen this many times. Now, so to regulate that temperature, the body temperature, homeothermy, the skin and of course the hypothalamus is responsible. All right. So we want to ensure that we don't overexpose ourselves to high temperature, try to be any era or anything like that. Because if we do, we could, in Jamaica, they say play number 3. All right. And we don't want that. So that was it there for temperature regulation. We looked at that when we spoke about vasodilation and vasoconstriction. We now know that it is one of those negative feedback mechanisms, and it falls pretty nosely under what we call homeostasis. We're now going to be looking at osmoregulation. And osmoregulation, this is pretty much where the kidney comes in when we talk about the regulation or how the water is regulated in the body, right? And of course, osmo speak to osmosis, right? And when we talk about water and osmoregulation, we cannot even complete this discussion without talking about ADH and its role in the nephron. So we're going to be talking a little about osmoregulation. And osmoregulation, like we said earlier, is a control of water balance in the body. And of course, the kidney is very, very important in regulating the water balance. And if the water balance is not regulated, then a number of stuff can happen. We're going to go back to some terms that we learn in osmosis, and you can just pop them on the screen if you so desire. Now, the kidney is responsible for controlling water balance and, of course, salt level of the cell. And of course, the kidney relies on osmosis to assist with the movement of water. Now, if the cells have enough water, the cells are going to be turgid. If the cells have enough water, the cells are going to be turgid. You could type in the chat what turgid means. And if there's not enough water, the cells are going to become plasmolyzed. All right. So an example of turgid, I won't want to use example here. If you went to the supermarket and you bought a carrot and it's really, really hard, or you bought some lettuce and the leaves are what we call crispy, those cells are turgid. right? And when we talk about the cell being plasmolized, if you had the Irish potato at home and it's out of the fridge for some time and it becomes soft, that's a good example of it being plasmid. But also firm, yes, firm, turgid, firm. Yes, good. Be careful with concentrated because concentrated is a word I think it is sort of loosely used. Concentrated could mean a lot of solute or it could mean a lot of water. So it can't just be left at concentrated, but we'll like the responses so we can correct it so nobody will, of course, have challenge. Will be challenged by it. Okay, cool. All right, so here we go. There's another fancy word that we talk about, hemolysis. Hemolysis. And hemolysis speak to the cell being ruptured. Now, you can all agree that animal cells, they don't have cell wall. So because they don't have cell wall, if you're taking too much water, the cell will burst. And that is what we talk about. What we're talking about when we talk about hemolysis. Now, if the concentration is greater on the inside of the cell, and here we talk now about concentration, is greater on the inside of the cell, then water will move in the cell. Now, the concentration that we're talking about here is the amount of solute being dissolved. All right. So if it has more salt content, let me just use salt on the inside of the cell, then water will move into the cell. If you go to my osmosis video, you'll see me talking about freshwater fish versus saltwater fish and the change in the habitat and what will happen. You could go to the osmosis video to get more on that. Now, another thing we want to talk about some fancy word here. And this fancy word come in nice now. We're moving away just from the definition of osmosis to put osmosis in work. So we spoke about hypotonic. A hypotonic solution is pretty much less concentrated, which means that it has less solute dissolved in it. We also spoke about hypertonic solution is a solution that is concentrated, which means that it has more solute dissolved in it than whatever else it's been compared with. And we also spoke about the isotonic solution, which says that the concentration here is pretty much the concentration here is pretty much a concentration here. And that is what is created when we look at the IV fluid that you call drip. When you go to the hospital, in most cases, they are trying to create an isotonic environment. All right. Some person might talk about water balance, but some of these things are loosely used, and over time they tend to confuse us all. Balance and amount of water. I like to talk about concentration because if we're supposed to talk about, you'll see in one of my multiple choice paper, I'm not even sure if that is what CXC wanted, but if you were supposed to look at osmosis, and persons are going to say osmosis is going to take place until the amount of water in the tissue funnel is equivalent to the water on the outside of the tissue funnel. Then if that were to be so, then we would not have hemolysis. If the water is going to be equal, then the cell might very well burst. All right. So it's not about what being equal. And if you were supposed to just drop something in a drum of water, it's not going to take in all the water. So it's all about concentration and not about volume or not about the amount of water. So I'm afraid of that. I've seen things like that, and I'm saying this can be a little confusing to students. Now, important to note is that if we are sweating a lot with regulating water, we are going to have less urine. So if you are sweating a lot on a hot day, then it's only natural that you're going to produce less urine. Amoy is not here. I haven't seen her, but Amoy had asked me a question, I think, on the Wednesday show. She had asked me what part of the digestive system is responsible for the reabsorption of water, and I told her that it was the colon. So, well, the colon is going to take in the bulk of the water, but the ileum also takes some amount of water. So, the water regulation in the intestine, you have the colon taking in some water that you've drank, and of course you have the ileum that will take some of the water, probably not much. And then if you really need water, then what is going to happen is that ADH, a pituitary gland, will ensure that the ADH is secreted, and it is of course going to make the walls of the collecting duct and distal tubule more permeable. Let's look at that. Now, how water leaves the body? I want you to answer that for me. How water leaves the body? Sweating, dehydration. Beautiful. All right. How water leaves the body? All right. Tell me in the chat there. How water. So we know that to get water in, we usually drink the water. Yeah. That's how we get water in the body. Or if we don't drink the water, we eat a fruit or we eat something that contains some amount of water. So I want you to tell me. So Tanisha is saying we lose water by tears. People tend to forget that. All right. So we lose water by tears, of course, because we have tears, and we're going to talk about that when we look at the eye. We lose water by sweating. We lose water by exhalation, expired here. And we lose water by urination. Anything else? Tears, urination, sweat, tears, anything else? Don't be afraid. This is a bio class. Say whatever you have to say. Which other way we lose water? Any other way? Sweat, tears, respiration. Respiration, giving off that water by expired air. Anything else? Any other way? We lose water in feces. All right, so we lose water in feces, and more so, we lose water in a process that we call diarrhea. And I like to talk about this. Even when you vomit, you're losing water. Very well, you're losing water there. I remember vomiting is, in most cases, digested product, undigested product that we are bringing up. So we're losing water in feces. And of course, diarrhea is one of those places that we're going to be losing a whole lot of water. We can't have diarrhea because a nutritional problem or bacterial problem or other type of problem. We're losing water there from diarrhea. Now, when we lose water from diarrhea, a lot of persons, sometimes the body is so sick that you really don't want to drink any water. But if you don't drink water, then you're going to become dehydrated. Now, if you become dehydrated, then the urine become concentrated. And most persons who suffer from diarrhea, they tend to lose their life because they went dehydrated. So if you ever suffer from diarrhea, you know anybody suffering from diarrhea, passing the stool too frequent, you want to ensure that they have adequate supply of water or rehydration fluid, whatever it is. You can get rehydration salt at the pharmacy. You want to ensure that you have that. So we're talking a little bit now about the kidney and regulating water. We said that the ADH in asthma regulation, ADH is very, very important. Now, in our last class, I gave you one side of a negative feedback mechanism, and I told you that all you needed to do is to remember that the other side is pretty much the opposite. So I'm going to be doing the same thing this evening. So we're looking at you and I. Now, in one case, we're going to look at if there's too much water in the blood, and we're going to look at another side if there's too little water in the blood. Now, what we need to recall in understanding what is going to happen, the brain plays a very important part. So the brain has what we call osmo receptors. Osmo receptor. And of course, the hypothalamus is going to detect, of course, the concentration of the blood. Now, now, having detect the concentration of the blood, it will communicate with the pituitary gland, and it's of course a posterior pituitary gland. And remember, I showed you some position about posterior and all of that, because when I'm talking about the eye, and I'm going to be talking about the anterior and the posterior, and I talk about vitreous humor, aqueous humor, I want to ensure that you understand the positions. I gave you those positions because I wanted you to learn them. All right. So of course, the pituitary gland is going to secrete ADH if there is too little water in the blood. So let me go with one side, and then I'm going to ask you about the other side. Remember that the other side is just the opposite of what I'm going to be saying. But to put less work on you when you study, you just need to remember one side, and then the other side is going to be the opposite. And if you check the multiple choice papers that I have done, what is ADH? All right, beautiful. It stands for antidiuretic hormone. ADH, it stands for antidiuretic hormone. It is a hormone that pretty much regulates the reabsorption or regulate water in the body. All right, it stands for antidiuretic hormone. All right, so if you go to excretion, it could be in excretion as well as it could be in hormones. You could check Google, and Google could give you some more on ADH. But it stands for Anti-Diuretic Hormone. All right, so let us look at what it does, what will happen, and then you'll have a better appreciation for it. So if there's too much water in the blood, all right, then the blood will be dilute. So if you have too much water in the blood is going to be considered dilute. Now, in such case, you are not going to be thirsty. You're not going to feel thirsty. All right. So what the body will do, the body will secrete less ADH. So less ADH, less antidiuretic hormone will be in the blood. Now, with less antidiuretic hormone being in the blood, the kidney will, of course, enjoy less reabsorption of water into the blood. So what it means is that it will not be taking any water from the nephron back into the blood because it has enough water. Instead, it's going to try to get rid of that water. All right. So also more water will be in the urine. Remember, we said that we're not going to be taking back any water from the nephron, and the nephron is making urine. So naturally, the urine will have more water. Now, if the urine has more water, then naturally the urine will be less concentrated. Now, all this being true, then we will bring the blood back to set point. Now, it is your turn now. You have too little water in the blood. Will the blood be dilute or concentrated? So your answer should be dilute or concentrated. I'll give you all the clues. So your blood has too little water. Will it be considered dilute or concentrated? The blood has too little water. Will it be considered dilute or concentrated? Talk to me in the chat. All right, so we just went through too much water in the blood. Now we're looking at too little water in the blood. So of course, everybody will be telling me because they have been following the lesson, and they can recall that I said that one side is the opposite of the other. So persons should be getting this right. Beautiful. Everybody is doing wonderful this evening. Wonderful. So if there's too little water in the blood, will you be thirsty or not? Will you need water or you won't need any water? Need water or no water? Need water or no water? Too little water in the blood, will you need water or you won't need water? Would you need to drink some water or you won't need to drink some water? So if there's too little water in the blood, Tanisha is saying that you're going to be thirsty. What about the others? You will be thirsty. You will need water. You will need water. You will need water. All right, anybody else? Anything else? Any other view? Thirsty. Remember, your view is your view. Don't follow anybody else's view. Yes, you will need to drink water. All right, beautiful. So if you have too little water in the blood, then naturally the blood is going to be concentrated and you are going to need water. The body is going to tell you that, listen to me, get some water. I feel really thirsty. You can just get me some water over there. Sorry, that type of thing. So this is what you didn't know. So if there's too little water in the blood, will the body be secreting more ADH or less ADH? More ADH or less ADH? Please be reminded to like, share, and of course, subscribe. It is not too late to invite your friends on over. This is a free class, and we're here on a Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday at 5:05 p.m. and we are streaming from Jamaica. We're sure now that we are in 7 Caribbean islands, and we are happy for all these persons we don't even know. All right, but we're happy we're able to give a lending hand. So the question is, if there's too little water, will the body be secreting more ADH or less ADH? All right, so more is saying Oh, more. Okay. More is saying more ADH, and the Sosa is saying less ADH. And of course, a Walker is saying more ADH, and Jawawan is saying more ADH. Macmillan is also saying more ADH. Is there any other view? Remember, being wrong is fine, you know. Being wrong is fine. Being wrong is fine here. All right, like having high blood pressure is fine. It's hypertension is the problem, because if you go up the road, your blood pressure will get high, and that's fine. But if it continues to be high, that is where we have a problem. So being wrong is fine, but if you continue to be wrong, that is where we have a problem. So other persons choose not to respond, so I move on to the Sosa. The Sosa, I'm going to help you to be right, because the only reason you're not right now, is because you don't understand. All right. Other persons might just be thinking about the mirror, and I'm happy that you didn't mirror, but instead you gave your view. So I'm going to help you with that. Now, in order to understand whether it is going to secrete more or less, is to understand what the ADH does. Now, the ADH is going to make the walls of the I want to just talk about the big thing and break it down. It's going to make the wall of a part of the nephron, or what we call the kidney tubule, is going to make it more permeable. Now, when we talk about more permeable, I'm going to show you something. Let me see if I can get a sheet of paper. I hope I can find one very quickly. All right, beautiful. And I'm going to be very graphic. No, this is not a nice sheet of paper. These are my work. These are my staple work. I'm going to get you something. No, don't worry yourself. I'll find a paper somewhere. All right, so, okay, I have a half of this paper. All right, beautiful. I'm going to make permeable as permeable. So this is a sheet of paper, and if I were supposed to fold it up like this and put some water in it, then after some time, then you'll have some water dripping from the paper. Is that true? If I were supposed to hold the paper like this, make a little cup thing like it, and I put some water in it, would you see water dripping from the paper? Yes or no? Water will be dripping? You have to answer me, because if you don't, I wouldn't know if you are going to understand what I'm going to say. Will the paper be dripping shortly if I were supposed to get some water in it like this? Okay, one person is saying yes. Anybody else think that water will drip from the paper? Anybody else? So I'm holding my paper like this. I make a little cup on the inside here, and I'm going to pour some water on the inside. And persons are saying after some time, the water will start dripping from the bottom. Now, the only reason why water is going to drip from the paper is because the paper is permeable, right? So we are saying that the walls of the distal convoluted tubule and the collecting duct, they are permeable. But what the ADH does is to make it more permeable. So if I am going to make this paper more permeable, this is not how the ADH will act. If I were supposed to bore this paper like this, I'm putting some holes in it. This is a little extra more than what the ADH does. But what the ADH will do is sort of to open those pores. So you can see some holes inside my paper. What the ADH will do is to open the little holes on these distal convoluted and so on, and make them bigger. Thus, the water will be able to move through faster, right? So that is what the ADH does. It makes the wall there more permeable. So probably we could say make it bigger, the space bigger there, so that the water can come through very quickly. So what will happen is that it is making this wall permeable so that the blood vessels around it could, of course, reabsorb more water from the collecting duct and, of course, the distal convoluted tubule. So it would reduce the amount of water in the urine, and as such, the urine would become more concentrated. All right. So when that was there too, I was assisting the SOSA with less. So it's actually going to be more. So if there's too little water in the blood, it is going to release more ADH so that you can get more water in the blood. Too little water in the blood, it's going to release more ADH so you can get more water in the blood. But talk to me, somebody. How will the kidney respond? Will the kidney reabsorb more water or less water? What will the kidney do? Will it reabsorb more water or less water if there's too little water in the blood? Will the kidney be reabsorbing more water? And we talk about the kidney, we're talking about the nephron here. Remember that the nephron is a functional unit or the area of operation. All right, talk to me, somebody. So Moore is saying that if there's too little water in the blood, then the kidney is going to reabsorb more water from the collecting duct and the distal convoluted tubule, and a loop of Henle will be working alongside there. All right, so Macmillan is saying more. Anybody else? Remember that this particular thing that I'm working here with you, it is a multiple choice question, and one of those people, probably the 2020 are one of those people, more than one of those people have the same negative feedback mechanism on the paper. It did not say negative feedback mechanism, but you should know, having covered so many with Mr. Wilson today. No. Williams, so I'll have to explain that again. Now, remember, when we talk about reabsorb, you have to get this going. Let me just go through the nephron thing very quickly again. Forgive me, guys. But as soon as somebody gets wrong, you guys are getting brighter because now you have affirmation as to why you're right. So this is what happens, Williams. The blood is flowing towards the kidney, right? Through the renal artery. And then it's going to get into what is called the afferent arteriole, and then it is going to go into what is called a glomerulus. And then we have a fancy thing that happens we call ultrafiltration, where the blood plasma squeeze out and all of that, some substance squeeze out into the Bowman capsule. Water and all of these fancy dancy. So the water, the body is losing water through this mechanism. Now, while the body is losing this water to the nephron, and the nephron is going to use it to make urine that you can pass out. Now, if there's too little water in the body, what is going to happen is that the kidney, what we call now selective reabsorption, the nephron is going to take back that water from the collecting duct. Come back here, I don't have enough in my body. Like Donald Trump said, I'm not sending any mass out of US because we don't have enough mask in US. So the same thing that is going to happen, the kidney is going to say, come back to me water, come back, don't go anywhere, I don't have enough, that sort of a thing. So once there is too little water in the body, the kidney will reabsorb more water. The kidney will also, not the kidney, the body, the pituitary gland will also secrete more ADH. Think of ADH like a water truck. You don't have any water and you really need water. More water truck is going to come to out the fire because the body is on fire. The body is really thirsty. It needs some water, and ADH is very, very important in ensuring that the body gets this water that it needs. And the kidney will also reabsorb some water. Don't go anywhere. You can't go. I need you. You can't leave my body. Stay right here. I need you to do some reaction. That type of thing is going to happen. So the salient point here, I think these are the two big points, because everybody know what happened when them thirsty. The big point, the secret here was ADH. You didn't know about ADH. So when you're thirsty, when there is not enough water in the blood, the body is going to secrete more ADH. And when it secretes more ADH, then it's going to make the walls of a nephron, distal convoluted tubule, the collecting duct, more permeable, so the body will take back the water. Don't come out, come back. Don't send out this urine dilute. Send it out concentrated because I need this water. I'm working on some respiration, something over here, so, and I need this water over here. So you follow me? I need this water for the reaction can take place in a nice, moist environment, that type of thing. All right, so cool, remember that. Then another thing, the last point is that more water, if we have too much water, more water will be in the urine. But if we have too little water, then we are going to have less water in the urine. And it is also true that the urine will be more concentrated. Now, all of those stuff that we have just spoken about, that will lead to the water concentration in the body getting back to it, what we refer to as the set point. Is there any question, concern, or emotional outburst at this time that you'd want me to address around asthma regulation before we get into the meat of the day, which is the big Caribbean problem, diabetes mellitus, sugar? Anything you want to ask, share? All right, and if you have not yet subscribed, please do so now. If you have not liked, please please like now. If you never invite nobody to come on the show, this is Jamaican Creole, please do so now. All right. So invite somebody to come on over to the show so that we can grow this intellectual community. All right. So here we go again. So now we're going to be looking at, sir, the color of one's urine. Sir, the color of one's urine. All right. So the color of the urine could pretty much suggest how concentrated or how dilute the blood is. If your urine is more yellow or clear. All right, so if the urine is more yellow, it is said that it is concentrated. And you'll see this most cases like on a hot day or when you're really thirsty. But on a cold day where you're not really drinking much water, you'll find that the urine is a little whiter. So in that case, it will say that the blood is a little more dilute and the body doesn't have this need to pull back the water, so it will really let it out. Okay, just making sure I am reading clear. All right, fine. We all read and read all sort of stuff. Now, even me get some corrections sometime, and I like it. I like it. I don't want to feel that I am the owner of the content. I like when we are sharing. All right, darker, it is more concentrated. Cool. And this is a learning community, so we learn from everyone. I like to come here and learn things. Yeah, I'm that teacher. And I don't mind if you correct me. All right? I am that teacher. Always remember, always, I'm not the keeper of knowledge. I might know a little thing, but I still can make mistake and I still don't know a lot. All right? So we're going to be looking at regulating blood sugar. And of course, this is another negative feedback mechanism and something of concern to us all. And I hope at the end of this lesson, the way we eat, the way we socialize, the amount of time we exercise, if we do any at all, will change. Right? Because we want to reduce that financial load on the government and we want to reduce the stress on our family to take care of someone who is ailing from diabetes or what we call sugar or diabetes mellitus, or whichever one. We want to ensure that, and if you observe on your HSB paper, it is big on your HSB paper. So blood sugar concentration is regulated by insulin, and we spoke about that when we did our practical earlier, and glucagon. And of course, it is secreted. They are secreted by the pancreas. And for those persons who keep forgetting the pancreas, just remember that the thyroid gland here, and some might show you the pituitary gland here, or depending, it might show you here. And then you are going to have the adrenal glands right here. And then you're going to have the pancreas coming across. Is this leaf-like looking thing coming across here. And then you might have they might show you the ovaries and testes somewhere down here. They might show it here. In some cases, they are using just one diagram, so you might see the ovaries and testes here. All right, so that's pretty much where they are when we talk about the endocrine system. And remember, the pancreas is both exocrine and endocrine. I don't think we looked at that yet. We haven't looked at that, but we should have. Oh no. We're going to look at it as soon as we're finished the eye and the brain and all of that. You know, it doesn't come up on the syllabus as yet. Beautiful. All right. So we touched a big point on the pancreas a while ago. We said that it was both exocrine and endocrine. That is just added knowledge. And we're saying that it is the pancreas that is, of course, responsible for the secretion of glucagon and, of course, insulin. And these are responsible for regulating blood sugar. And I did explain that earlier. Now, things to note is that the liver and the muscle store glycogen. And I think we're coming to a point now where Tanisha wants to help us. She started out by talking about fat and all of that. And of course, I said that we're going to get there later in the lesson, and we're right there now. But I wanted persons to follow closely. Now, excess glucose is also converted to glycogen by the insulin, which is, of course, secreted by the pancreas. And I said that earlier. Now, high blood sugar concentration, let's get a little more technical now. All right. So we have what is called, some persons call it islet of Langeron. Some persons call it the islet of Langeron, and some persons going to say pronunciation varies. Some going to say it varies. But the islet of Langeron, um, they detect the rise in concentration. And we're talking about sugar concentration of the blood. Then there are some cells now that we call the beta cells. All right. Now they are in the pancreas. They are going to cause the secretion of this insulin. Now, when is the insulin secreted? It is secreted after we said earlier a large meal of carbohydrate. So after dinner, after breakfast, and all of that, we need to regulate the blood sugar because we have a whole lot of blood sugar, right? And of course, the liver is going to convert some of the excess sugar to glycogen. Let me see what is here. Cell called. Oh, they are called beta cell, beta, beta. So we're going to talk about alpha and beta cells. All right. So the liver will convert excess sugar to glycogen. The body cell is, of course, going to increase the uptake of glucose when the sugar is high in the blood. Another thing that will happen is that some of the insulin will also convert sugar to fat. You would have seen Tanisha saying that earlier. Now, there's also going to be increased breakdown, oxidation of the sugar. All right. And then that should bring us to normal concentration. So let us look at that again. Let us look at it again. And I'm going to go through slowly. We eat, if you are in Jamaica, and you, whichever country you come from, tell me what you eat. I don't know what you eat. In Jamaica, we eat jerk chicken. And if you ramp it over, we jerk it too. Sorry, I'm just joking there. All right. So we eat rice and peas and chicken. Today is Sunday. What you eat, tell me what you eat. I want you to tell me what you eat. Come on, we want to know what you eat. And when I say what you eat, what's your country's dish? Like I know pepper pot, Tanisha and Otisha, Guyana, pepper pot. Macmillan, what you eat? Fries. What is that? For real. For real. Walker is saying for real. Walker is your kid? No. Kalia. She might be the same person. All right. So we eat rice and peas and chicken, provision and saltfish. All right. Provision and saltfish. That is Macmillan thing. Whatever it is that you eat from wherever. Ackee and saltfish, right? And some Tanisha eat rice and pepper pot and so on. Beautiful. So everybody consumes some amount of starch. All right. Beautiful. We're doing practical now. So I gave you theory a while ago. We're going to do the practical now, and you have to work with me. All right. So let me see here. I want to hear what everybody eats. Everybody, yeah. Fried rice. Ooh. Cook up rice. Chicken, curry, and rice in Guyana too. All right. All right. If my Jamaican them ever start talk and tell you, oh, we eat jerk pork and we eat jerk chicken and we eat breadfruit. And we eat dashing and yam and cocoa. And we yam little coconut drops every now and then. Cassava. We're not so big on the cassava in Jamaica, you know. We eat a little bit, but we not eat much. We eat some pigtails too, peas. All right. We love breadfruit in Jamaica. And when you go market for buy breadfruit, them say that one easy for roast or flashlight can roast it. I tell you. But the biggie here, oxtail, yam, the biggie here is that we all eat. And when we consume, in most cases, what we eat, it is really endowed with carbohydrate, a whole lot of carbohydrate. So beautiful. So we get the first part of the lesson. But no, someone didn't know the thing long time. Yes, we all knew it. So now that we eat this whole lot of stuff, I just give me for eat a while ago, it increased the sugar content in the body. And now you put the body in a problem because the body needs to deal with it. So this is what is going to happen. Study the thing one at a time. In the pancreas, you have some cells called the islet of Langeron. Or if you want to say islet of Langeron, but make sure you can spell it. All right. And in these cells, we have what are called beta cells. Now, it's important that you understand. Remember beta cells. Now, the beta cells, they are going to cause the pancreas to secrete more insulin. The beta cell in the pancreas is going to cause the secretion of more insulin. Work with me now, guys. And this is happening right after you eat up all of the whole heap of food that we just gave me to eat a while ago. Now, what the body is doing when it secretes this insulin is that it wants to take out this excess sugar out of the blood, and it is going to try to convert it now into glycogen. But because it's so much, it can't do it by itself. So the liver is also going to help to convert excess sugar to glycogen. The body cell is going to take up as much of it that it can take up out of the blood. And then what is going to happen is that the insulin now is going to convert some of this sugar into fat. And they're going to store it on your organs, and in some cases inside of the organ, and reducing the size of the lumen, the size of the space in the blood vessel. And you see what we're coming now? We're going over to obesity. With all of this thing that the insulin has to be converting this whole heap of food where you never did to eat, you never need to eat so much. So you haven't eaten so much food, then the body has to deal with it. It's going to store some of it, and then you start to get a little chubby. Now, another thing that happens is that the increase breakdown, oxidation, because of this increase, we're going to have breakdown or oxidation of the sugar. And of course, normal concentration should be restored after all of them, something we just talked about. But we're just going one way. We're now talking about taking out the excess sugar out of the blood and what we're going to do with it. So some of the things that we said that we're going to do with it, the excess sugar is going to be stored as glycogen. We said that the insulin going to convert some of the sugar to fat. We said that the body cell going to absorb some of this. And then we say that this, if it is not regulated, over time you start put on some mass and you become a little chubby. I hope you're with me. Now, sugar too high, it is going to be excreted in the urine. So if the body cannot regulate the sugar in the blood, the sugar is going to be passed out as sugar in the urine. And when this starts to happen, you are now going to be having a problem. All right. So let us look at if the sugar is too low, what is going to happen. We've just looked at if the sugar is too high. Now, the same islet of Langeron is going to detect the concentration. And now we have a different set of cells. So this is like first, when it is high, it was the beta cell. Now, when it is low, it is the alpha cell. So the alpha cell is going to cause now the pancreas to secrete more or to secrete glucagon. Remember we spoke about that? The glucagon is going to act on liver cell where glycogen was stored, right? To break down the glycogen into glucose. Remember we said that earlier? So the glycogen is stored in the liver cell. The alpha cell is going to cause the glucagon to be secreted. The glucagon is going to act on the liver, breaking down the glycogen now into glucose to release it so the body can have energy. Now, I did say earlier that adrenaline can also do this. And when the adrenaline does it, you tend to have an extra burst of energy, a quicker burst of energy, but not that it is sustained. All right? Just for what you need it to do. Now, if the blood sugar is too low and it is not rectified, what is likely to happen is that you will faint. So you will become unconscious. I don't know you've ever gone to school and you have a long devotion in the morning. Some students didn't have any dinner, some didn't have any breakfast, and persons just start falling in assembly, because if the blood sugar is too low, if the carbon dioxide level is too high, all both could affect the kids. So if the blood sugar is too low, you will faint, you will become unconscious, you will just drop poof. Tanisha have a nice word to say in her, I think she said badang. So if your blood sugar is too low, then you might go badang, fall to the ground. Now, insulin, the takeaway here is that insulin will lower blood sugar, while glucagon will, of course, increase the blood sugar. Now, that said, it's important to note that we have two types of diabetes dealing with here. We have type 1 diabetes, which is of course less common, and it is mostly found in children. So we have type 1 diabetes, which is less common, and it is found mostly in children. Now, this is as a result of a defect. When the beta cell fail to produce insulin, when the beta cells, remember we spoke about beta cell, when the beta cells fail to produce insulin, then we end up with what is called type 1 diabetes. And it's really found, like I said, in young children. Now, the correction here is that prepared insulin can be injected in this patient to, of course, correct the problem. But it's also important to note that insulin is that thing that we use to lower blood sugar, and insulin can be made, or it is made, I'm not even sure if it is still made, it's still obtained from cattle. In some cases, the insulin is obtained from cattle, but you would have seen some questions we worked on the exam paper, the multiple choice paper, where biotechnology is being used in the production of insulin. You talk about genetic engineering. All right, so the production of insulin, or if you don't have enough insulin or you need insulin, they could harness insulin from cattle, or they could use biotechnology to, of course, produce the insulin that is so needed. Now, the other thing we're going to be looking at is type 2 diabetes. Do we have any question for type 1 diabetes? I'm sure that nobody here is suffering from diabetes. And of course, you have to lower your blood sugar, eat a balanced diet, ensure that you have enough fruits and vegetables. A lot of you don't want to eat any vegetable. You're telling persons that you're not a herbivore, so you're not eating any vegetable and all of that stuff. But you want to ensure that you are having a proper diet, you're exercising well, you're sleeping well, and of course, you're having enough water. Now, type 2 diabetes is caused when the target cell, that is the target cells for glucose, fail to respond to insulin. So the cells that should be responding to this glucose, they are failing to respond to the glucose. As such, they're not producing any insulin. All right, so there's no production of insulin, and then you start to have type 2 diabetes. Now, with type 2 diabetes, there's a high concentration of glucose. With type 2 diabetes, I'm not too sure where Boo is going with that. Oh, there was something else. Why does it mainly affect young children? Oh, wow. I am not certain why is it that it affects mostly young children. What I'm sure is that it is mostly found in children. I'm not too sure. Like I said, it is a defect, and I'm not sure if it is genetics, but usually when we have these type of defect, it usually start from early. So it's found in children, but of course, you are going to grow up and you might have the problem. So because it's detected at that early age, it is said that it is found in children. However, as soon as you get older and the condition changes, we start looking now at type 2. So I think it's just at the point where it is discovered. Sir, I have to go. No, I'll watch the replay. Okay, take much care of yourself. Of course, a replay will be available, I think, by tomorrow, because usually there are a lot of replay and it takes a little time before you can see it. All right. So type 2 diabetes, high concentration of glucose in the blood. And of course, it is going to be found in the urine. Now, the kidney tubule might become damaged. And we'll talk about the kidney tubule. We're talking about the nephron. Sir, does the body digest rough edge? Oh, no. Oh, no. Rough edge is what we call fiber, like the teston, the peas. Uh, child's body is still developing, probably. But no, it is a defect. It is a defect. It's just a defect, like you have Down syndrome. It's a defect. So it's not every kid that is going to have type 1 diabetes, but of course, some kids will suffer from type 1 diabetes. So it's not safe to say because they are developing. I think it's a point where it is discovered, right? And it is mostly discovered there. As to why, it's just one of those defects, and I think it's acquired at an early stage, so they tend to find it at an early stage. I am thinking, I don't have the facts. That's just my suggestion. I'm sorry, just my suggestion here. All right. So when we have type 2 diabetes, then the kidney tubule, they will of course be damaged. They can't deal with that large volume of sugar, and as a result, the sugar will of course end up in the urine. With selective reabsorption here, the kidney tubule can't deal with that volume of sugar, so of course it ends up into the blood. Now, why do we need to be concerned about type 2 diabetes? It is because it leads to obesity, or it's caused by obesity. Of course, it is caused, of course, by overeating, and of course, lack of exercise. All right. So these are some things that we're supposed to ensure that is a part of what we do. We want to ensure, I said earlier, a proper diet. All right. Stay away from this added carbs if you don't need it. And of course, don't eat too much. I know the food is nice, but don't eat too much. I know you're having a little stress because you're not in class, you're not at school, and you're trying to just find a way to deal with it, and you might just start eating more than you should. Find something to read, exercise, do something, but don't consume too much, or else you might be pushing yourself over the edge to get to the point of type 2, that obesity, and then eventually type 2 diabetes. Now, yes, studying, of course, is going to make you eat more. So as you eat more, I suggest that you exercise more as well. All right. So I want you to exercise more as you eat more. All right. But naturally, if you're studying, we're of this idea, the opinion that if you are studying, you are doing nothing, but you are thinking. And while you're thinking, of course, it's of information being processed. So the rate of respiration will, of course, increase. And if we want to find out if we are doing work when we are studying, let me give you an activity. Get yourself one of those clinical thermometer at the pharmacy. I think probably, I don't know, they're very cheap. One of the digital one. And just check your body temperature before you start studying. Right? And when you are really deep into the study and you feel like you're hungry, check the body temperature again. And it should tell you whether or not the body is of course using more energy, because if it's using more energy, then naturally the body temperature will increase. You want to try that experiment. All right. We spoke about excess carb being stored, carbohydrate. Okay, we should. All right, cool. You should. All right, so carbohydrate use up all the insulin. When we are eating that whole heap of stuff, it uses up all the insulin. Extra water, the body is going to need extra water, so you start feeling thirsty. Of course, more water, more urine will be produced. More urine will be produced, and you're passing out the sugar in the urine. Of course, you're going to be weak because the body not using the sugar like it should use it. The body is just passing it out because it's not being stored as it should. Sir, we're not working. Oh, but if you think you're not working, just carry out the experiment I gave you just now and tell me what the result will be. You're telling me now that work is force time distant. All right. So what I'd suggest to you, I could give you another experiment because I have a lot of experiments, All right. So just let me finish this. So with the diabetes type 2, you're going to, of course, have more urine. You're going to have, of course, a need for extra water. You're going to drink more water, of course, naturally, because you become more thirsty more often. And that is as a result of dehydration, a whole lot of sugar. But if you think you're not working because you're studying, I suggest to you that you eat some food, start studying, but while you're studying, just lie in the bed and don't get up. Just stay there and study. And if you are not working, then the food shouldn't, the energy, the stored energy shouldn't be used. Because if I were supposed to park my car and don't drive it, it would still keep the gas inside. I wouldn't lose the gas. The gas would still be there. Right? So we could try two things. I could park my car for a week and you could just eat today and not eat again for the rest of the week. And then come next Sunday, I'll tell you when I'm driving out, and I'll tell you how the car feels when I start to drive, if it's driving fast or slow. And you could tell me how you feel. But you shouldn't do any work at all. You should just stay one place until Sunday. And then you will have a good reason why we have to eat, right? Because work, we use this energy to stay alive. And while we're talking in physics about work, force, time, distance, of course, you're not going anywhere, but you are not actually working, but your organs, they continue to work. And of course, they are using energy. Well, I work Monday to Friday and I study. So okay, cool. What if you have a high metabolic rate? All right, so it means that you can convert the food pretty fast. That is what you're saying, Walker. That's your high metabolic rate. Are you speaking to the conversion of a food? You are able to process it very quickly. What should we understand from what you've said? I'm waiting on your answer. Okay. All right. So there are some persons that will, of course, metabolize the food much faster than others. And of course, yeah, you can do that, but sometimes it's just trick we're tricking ourselves, because it's not like you're going to eat this food and this food is going to be passed out as if it's rough edge. The things that we have said, it's consistent to everybody. So even if your metabolic rate is high, you're going to be packing on some weight, packing on some fat. All right, so just try to stay away from that type of thing. All right, so another thing I want us to look at very quickly. So you get that? I soon talk to you. All right, so there are two terms that we want to talk about. We want to talk about hypoglycemia. I don't know if you've ever heard that term. Hypo, hypoglycemia, blood sugar is too low. So if you've ever heard, or if you've ever seen a doctor writing something for you or somebody, and it says hypoglycemia, it means that your blood sugar is too low. And if you have ever seen hyperglycemia, it means that the blood sugar is too high. So we have hypo, which is low, and we have hyper, which of course is high. Why do you have live classes, sir? I don't understand that question. Oh, when? Sorry, I am very sorry. When? Okay, we have live classes, JDF. All right, we have live classes on a Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday at 5:05. Blood sugar is low. All right, so we have 3 classes, plus we have a lot of videos on the channel, and we at least release 1 or 2 videos per week. More so, if we have something that the students did not understand, I try to do videos or animation to enhance the lesson. All right, blood sugar is too low. Lol. Oh, forgive me. I read and sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I see different things. If I take off my glasses, probably I can't see anything. All right, so forgive me if I say something and it's not right. Just help me out here. All right, so when we have this diabetes problem, this type 2 diabetes, some of the things that are likely to happen is that the blood might become acidic, you might become tired very easily, you might start vomiting. You just, what's that mean? I'm just vomiting. Something is wrong. You could become unconscious every now and then. You could have a reduction in fat metabolism, so the body is not really acting on fat as well as it should. You could end up with kidney failure. The kidney is just not working again. And then what you start having is that the body now start to retain water. They say your kidney damage, but the kidney is damaged as a result of type 2 diabetes. You could end up having eye defect. I was wondering at one time if I had diabetes, because but then I said no. When we do sight, we're going to find it is probably old age. I don't know, but my eyes just start going AY. But thanks for glasses. I mean, it helps a whole lot. So you have eye defect. You could have, of course, you start having pain every now and then, and of course, you might end up with arteriosclerosis, and you might end up, like I said, with mental confusion. Sometimes you're not too sure what is happening. It's like you're all mixed up in your head. And after all those long stuff, you might also end up being dead. All right. All right, good. So I'm seeing persons extending welcome there to new members of the family. That takes us pretty much to the end of homeostasis, diabetes. If you look at the multiple choice papers that we have online, most of what we've just covered in homeostasis, there are a couple of questions on the paper. Diabetes, homeostasis, all the things that we have covered so far. Once I have a class, if you were supposed to go to that paper, you'd be able to find something. Now, the intention, if you saw the thumbnail that we sent out, we said that we're going to look at homeostasis today, and we're going to look at the eye. You don't need to worry, because I'm not going to go into eye defect this evening. I'm just going to touch the first part of the eye. And then next class, we're going to look at accommodation. We're going to look at eye defects and all of those and corrective mechanism. So we don't need to worry. So we are still waiting on paper two. Of course, you're still waiting on paper two. I started working 3 paper two, and then so many stuff got in the middle, and I have not done it. But don't worry yourself, they will come at the right time. The thing about it is that usually it is the paper one that is repeated. So we still have the bio paper ones that we are supposed to put out. The paper two is just to show you how to answer the question, I think, not so much to think that the question is going to be repeated. Because usually, if you want to know if a question is going to be repeated, download the CXC report for the exam that was before. And if the CXC is saying that the question was not answered properly, we have to do that as soon as we finish the syllabus. We want to look at what the kids have not been answering properly, and then we will explore those, because those might come back on the paper. But as to say, just a random paper like the multiple choice paper would, the paper two, usually they are not repeated like that, unless there's a question that the kids have not been dealing with. And one such question is, of course, for biology, they said students don't work well with photosynthesis. I don't know why. And students really don't work with genetics. Students don't work well with the menstrual cycle. So menstrual cycle, every now and then you see it on the paper. But we're going to get to it. Don't worry yourself. So I want to look at the eyes, and I'm going to take off my glasses, and we're going to start there from outside in. And you know that I like to talk about practical and theory, and my practical might seem to be theory, but it's actually practical. So I am going to be asking you to assist me here. I'm going to be touching parts of my eye, and you're going to tell me, or I will describe what I'm touching, and then I'll describe what I can't touch, and then I want you to tell me in the chat. I really don't want you to go and do any research now. If you don't know, you don't know. All right. So I'm touching the little ear over this part. What is this called? This ear right here. All right. Some persons have it going right across. Fortunately or unfortunately, I don't. So what is this area called? Type it in the chat there for me. It's a very interactive session. Please be reminded, if you have not yet, like, share, or subscribe. It might be time to do so now. And invite your friends on over. Invite your classmates over Don't be selfish. They might be the person to remind you of something I taught. All right. So persons are saying that it is the brow. Some persons are saying that it's the eyebrow. Whichever one you call it, it is the brow or the eyebrow. All right. So the next question is going to be, what is the function of the eyebrow? I know that you girls like to shave it off and you just have one little line. Or you shave off all it and then you use some marker or something and just draw on something over here. So I don't know why you do it, but you do it. All right. What is the function of the eyebrow? Anybody? What's the function of the eyebrow? Talk to me, somebody. And just find the eye in your book, the diagram of the eye, because I'm going to be doing that. And of course, you need to see the diagram as I talk and walk you through the diagram. All right. So what is the eyebrow used for? As a function. All right. I see that a lot of persons don't know. And why you don't know is because you shave it off. So as far as you're concerned, it has no function. To protect. So I think it's to protect. Sir, I don't know. Something help keep it clean. Something keep stuff like sweat out of the. I think the I don't know. I don't know, out in its ear, something like that. Prevent dust. Tanisha, you never hear me say. If you did hear me say, you wouldn't answer me like that. It's the eyebrow we're talking about, Tanisha. All right. Jawawan, eyebrow to prevent dust. No, you never hear me say neither. Eyebrow to break to eyebrow be looking like bushy caterpillar. Set out of the eye. Thank you very much, Mark Million. So the purpose of the eyebrow here is to prevent the sweat that is coming from up here from going into the eye. So it's expected that it's going to run to the side. All right, another thing. When we did the skeletal system, we had an appreciation that the eye is in a socket. What is the purpose of having the eye in the socket? What's the purpose of having the eye in the socket? All right, as you think about that, let us remind ourselves that, of course, the eye is a sense organ that is used to detect light and, of course, identify or detect differences in light intensity and, of course, focus objects that are near and far. So now we are trying to find out what is the reason for having the eye in a socket. So Tanisha said protection. Tanisha again said uh, injury and to protect from injury. Melanie is saying to move. Not too sure of that. Well, we can relate to that, but that is not the real reason. So it don't go to the back of it. Oh, we have it in a socket that it doesn't go to the back of the head. That's a cute one. That's a biology joke. That's a biology joke. But no, 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 no. I think you might be answering to something else, but that's not the answer that we're looking for. Sorry. Jawawan, to protect it from a knock. So we protect it from being something hitting it. So if I were supposed to do that, you see me doing that, I'm not really hitting myself in the eye. As soon as I do that, you realize that this must rise. See, this must rise in order to protect. But if not, it is down, but then I go like that. The muscle goes up in order to protect the eye. And some of the eye start to go in if this muscle go up. All right. It keep all right, good. So the purpose of having the eye in a socket is like I think Jawawan said, to protect it from a knock or to protect it from injury. A lot of persons said injury protection. So if some it doesn't hit the eye that readily, all right, it's going to fall on the bone here and here or something like that. It has to be something this small to really hit the eye center on. So the eye is pretty much in a socket for protection. Now, we spoke about the eyebrow to prevent, of course, the sweat or water from running down into the eye. So now we get to this part. What is this part called? This part I can hold on it. See? What is this part called? All right. So what is this part of the eye called? This part that I'm holding on right here, what is it called? Come on, guys, don't let me down. No. We did these things when we were going to basic school. We did parts of the body. I'm sure that we did. All right. So I think that might be eyelid, if I'm not too sure. Eyelid. Okay, eyelids. Anybody else? Any other name? Tell me what you call it in your island. What is it called? This is the part of the eye that I'm holding on here. What is it? All right. Some persons are saying eyelid, eyelid, eyelid. Some persons are saying conjunctiva. That is a big word. That's not the word we're looking for now. It's not the conjunctiva. This thing that we're looking on here, it is pretty much the eyelid. You see, you never know. You ask questions that you expect everyone to get right. But of course, because they are so simple, persons usually think that you're asking for more. So it's actually the eyelid. Now, what is the function of the eyelid? Tell me in the chat there. What's the function of the eyelid? Prevent the entry of substances such as windblown grit. All right. So, any other answer? I'm not going to be taking just one answer. Any other answer? I want everybody to participate. Is there any other answer? What is the function of the eyelid? To close the eyes. Interesting. So, with the eyelid, it is supposed to close the eye. One person is saying that it prevents grit or dirt from entering the eye. Jawawan is saying it also helps to lubricate the surface of the eye with tears, right? And you know that we have the tear gland somewhere here to the corner here. So the eye has to be kept moist, or as the friction that would be between the eyelid and the eye would be so great it would cause damage. So the eyelid also helps with lubricating or applying that moisture over the eye. It protects us, it protects entry of dust, it protects the cornea, another nice word there, to rest the eyes. The snake eyes always open, there's no eyelid. So we don't know if a snake can sleep. All right, also, or sleep, to rest the eye or sleep, or particles from entering the eye to help provide a moist chamber. All right, beautiful. Most of those answers are indeed correct. The purpose of the eyelid is, of course, to protect the eye and to prevent dust or grit from entering the eye. And of course, when it's closed, it give you a pretty nice rest because you won't see shadow passing in your sleep and so when it's closed, it starts to help to give you a nice rest. It's very important also that for us to know that the eyelid is very, very important in keeping the eye moist, as it each time we blink, that type of thing, we're pretty much spreading moisture in keeping the eye nice and dandy for the day. Now, when we get to the tip of the eyelid, we have some long thing here. Some ladies put on some real long ones. And then they put on something they call mascara. What is the little ear called at the end of the eyelid? What's the ear called? And I think I'm going to add something to this lesson, though it's not on the syllabus. I need to add something to it. All right. What is it called? So eyelashes, eyelashes, eyelashes. Very good. All right. What is Hunt? I'm not too sure what you said there. With them put on eyelash. All right, good. So it is called the eyelash. And what is the function of the eyelash? Because God didn't give us any extra parts. So what is the function of the eyelash? What's the function of the eyelash? Sweep out dust. Sweep out dust from where? The eyelash is not in the eyelash is not in the eye, Prevent dust from entering the eyes. That sounds more logical. Help prevent the entry of grit and dust into the eyes. Those are pretty nicer. Let me get back to what Moore said in a bit. Gracie, to prevent dust from entering the eyes. Yes. Extend protection of the lid. Yes. Protection of the front of the eyes. Yes. Lol. No. All right. Not too sure. Please remember we don't laugh at person's answers here. Let me hope that's not what you're doing. It keeps airborne dirt, dust, lint from entering the eye tissue. Not bad. That can also work. Eyelashes prevent dirt from entering the eye. Protect the front from foreign particles. Yes, from particles, foreign matter. All right, beautiful. All of those are wonderful. Now, another thing that has not been said is that the eyelash also help to shade or to reduce the light entering the eyes, right? So you go outside and it's very bright, you're going to do your eyes like that. It's not closed, right? But the eyelash might come down and also help to reduce the amount of light entering the eyes. Now, like the camel in the desert, they have very long eyelash, and they have the eyelash because of the dirt in the desert, the grit that is suspended and it's blowing, and they have it also because of the lighting. They might need to close and all of that, so they tend to have very long eyelash. Now, another thing I want to talk about, which is not on the syllabus, but I think I need to put this in because we tend to teach a lot about health. We are doing both biology and HSB now. We tend to do a lot about health. I want to talk about the eyelash that we put on. I want to talk about the contact lens that we put in, but I'm going to be talking about the eyelash first. Now, if you wanted a vehicle to go to work, would you buy like a D9, a front end loader, them something that they use in a mall pit with one big shovel on the front and one big one on the back? Would you buy that? Wouldn't that be too much power to go to work? Or will you buy a big bus, like the municipal bus, to drive to work, or you need a car? You need a car. You wouldn't need a big equipment or a big municipal bus. No. Now, the same is also true. If you observe the design of the eye doesn't have a type of muscle like the bicep and the tricep, right? The eye doesn't have that type of a muscle. So it's not made to carry that type of a load. Now, when we put on these eyelash on the eyes, to you, it is light. But if you observe, these persons continue to quint. And they continue to quint because it's very, very heavy on the eye, and it does not allow the eye to function like it should. Not only that, because they are so long, they become impediment to the eye in that you are seeing, but you are always seeing something so close to the eye that it becomes a bother to the eye. So the eye is even blinking to see, can I get away this thing from my eye? It is too close to my eyes, right? And then you blink, and then if it's not put on properly, then you know what happened. You might end up even having an infection in the eye. So thus to say, it is not a wise idea to put on these extension. It can cause stress on them. Yes, it does. Yes. Okay, yes, I'm here. Okay, cool. All right, so all right. It happens every now and then. If you're laughing at me, it is fine. And it's fine, but don't laugh at your classmate. That is sort of taboo to me. Anybody can say anything wrong in the class. If you're laughing at me, it's fine, but you can't laugh at your classmate. I don't appreciate that because learning will come with error. Learning will come with persons saying the wrong things. And if persons don't have a comfortable space to do that, then we are going to have problem with persons learning. So this is a safe space, so we don't laugh at persons. You can laugh at me, that's fine. All right, cool. All right, so we move on now to the inside of the eye. All right, so we are going to the inside of the eye, and we're doing a practical. So everybody pretty much know the outside of the eye, and you know what it is used for, and you are comfortable with it, and you know you shouldn't be wearing any extension on your eye. You know you shouldn't scrape off this. Some person say, well, I have to scrape it off, or is it going to look like caterpillar? I think that's something like that. But what can I say? I can just make a suggestion. It's not for me to tell you how to live your life. But now we're going inside of the eye. And Most person will say when you look at a person's eye, you are going to see black and white. Not necessarily. You see a dark color and white. Sometimes it's dark brown, sometimes it's a lighter brown, sometimes it's gray, sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's pink. So it have all sorts of different color. But we want to talk about the white part of the eye first. Everybody have a white part? Let me hear somebody say yes or no. Everybody have a white part in their eyes? You have a white part in the eye? Anybody? Anybody? And I'm very serious when I ask that. You have a white part in the eye, yes or no, sir? Oh, yes, sir. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, a lot of persons. Okay, beautiful, 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 beautiful. What is that white part called? Anybody can tell me? What is the white part called? What is the white part called? It's a S word. What's the white part called? The white part that you're looking at. So that white part in my eye, what is it called? All right, it's called a sclera. I have bright kids. I tell you, best class, brightest Caribbean students. Beautiful. So that white part there is called a sclera. All right, I'm going to push the envelope. Is it only found at the front of the eyes? Yes or no? This white part you spoke about now, the sclera. Yeah, you're correct. Is it only found at the front of the eyes? Yes, no. Okay, no. All right, beautiful. All right, that's important to note, because there are a lot of us who think that this white thing that you're looking at, it is only at the front. No. All right, no. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. All right. So then now we have this big brown part that you're seeing, that big part that is very pronounced. You can see in my eyes. Not sure. No, it's found. It's not only found at the front of the eye. We're going to get to that later, but we're looking at the front part here. So this big brown or black, whatever color you call it, you're looking at in my eyes. What is that called? That big brown or black part, I'm not too sure. One person is saying the iris. Everybody agree? Everyone agrees with that? No, the big, look, man, see that big black looking thing? What is it called? It is not the cornea. It's not the pupil. It's not the lens. It's not the cornea. It's not the pupil. And it's not the lens. It's not the pupil. It's not the pupil. It's not the lens. All right, I won't bother you anymore. All right, so that big part that you're looking at, that you can see from wherever in the Caribbean you are, in my eyes, that is called the iris. That big part there is called the iris. Sir, is what then? It is the iris. The pupil is a smaller black circle in the eyes. So in the iris, you are going to see a smaller circle inside of it. That is the, so in the iris, you're going to see a smaller circle in the middle of it. That is going to be the pupil. The pupil is pretty much the opening through which the light will travel to enter, to get into the eye. All right. So let us get this right. So you are looking at the sclera, which is white. I soon come back to some stuff, and when I come back to this one, I might just cuss me off. And then this big brown part that you're seeing, that is the iris. And in the center, there's a little smaller circle in the center, this dark one. That is going to be the pupil. All right. And then somewhere right here in the eye, somewhere up here, you are going to have the tear gland. Underneath here, you're going to have the tear gland, and it has some amount of antiseptic property in helping to keep the eye sterilized and clean. And then right here, if you were supposed to pull it down, you'd see two tiny holes right here. They are called the tear duct. And what they do, as soon as the eye become filled with water, they tend to lead that water down to the nostril. But there are times we have so much water in the eye that it overflow the lid and roll down the cheek. Sir, I have to go. Okay, take care. We are going to see you on Wednesday. All right, thanks so much for joining. And remember to carry your friends with you on Wednesday. All right, so we are running out of time. We have a long show this evening. We'll soon finish, though. Soon finish. All right, so we spoke about the tear duct. We spoke about the tear gland in the eye there. And I want to ensure that when you leave biology class, you don't leave and not knowing the part of your body or the parts of the body. We want to ensure you have that going well. Now, how do the features we can see protect the eyes? That we did just now. I have the little stuff right down here, what I want to teach you, so I don't go all over the place, because I can do that if I am not all organized with headings to teach. All right, so we're going to look at the structure of the eye very quickly. We're not going to go beyond the structure of the eye. So if you have a diagram of the eye, you can get the diagram of the eye, and we're going to look at it, and we're going to be very practical with it. I'm going to be taking you from the front of the eye right to the back of the eye. So pretty much a pathway in which light will travel. So I'm leaving at 7:55. I have HSB class with my teacher. All right, beautiful. Not a problem. Not a problem. All right. So structure of the eye. Um, I was really I have something written down here that I wanted to share with you. I was on the road yesterday in, of course, in Jamaica. I was in Old Harbor, to be specific. I was somewhere out by Bodles, and I stopped at a shop, and I heard a young lady say, hold on," and she was videotaping something behind me, and I looked, I saw a puff of white, what appeared to be white suspended particles moving up a cloud. And I said to her, "What's happening over there?" And she said that they had just dynamite the mall pit. And because of that, that dust particle is going up. And I asked my virtual friends in my head, and I'm going to be asking you now, the persons who are working over there, who are exposed to that type of dirt, suspended particles, will it ever get to the back of the eyes? Question, answer. Will the particles go to the back of the eyes at any time? Yes, no? Will the particles go to the back of the eyes? Please be reminded to like, share, and of course, subscribe. And at any time, you can invite your friends to come on over. The class is free. You need to share it with your teacher. You need to share it with your friends. There are many videos online. And if there's something that we need to work on, like the paper tool, let us know, and we'll put them on the list of things we have to do. Okay, no. Yes, it can. So Giselle is saying that the dirt particle will go to the back of the head. Didi is saying no, not sure. Morris saying yes, I think the particles might go to the back of the head. Boo is saying no. So we still have mixed view as to whether or not when it is dust, when it's all suspended particle and a windy, dusty, dirty day, if the particles will get to the back of the eye. Yes, sir, I think so. But it will eventually come out if it does, I think. Mattis is saying yes, those particles will go to the back of the head. Morris saying probably. Oh my. So a lot of persons not sure. What a problem we have here. So we are somewhere about 15, 16 and adults here. And can you imagine how much dirt going on your eye all of your life? Can you imagine if that were supposed to go to the back of your head? Look on your windowsill, not having cleaned it for 1 year, and see what would happen in the back of your head. All right, so let me help you to answer this, and you will always remember the particles that enter the eye cannot get to the back of the eye because there is this membrane. You can't see it, it is transparent. There's this membrane that covers the eye and fold over the eyelid. It is called the conjunctiva. It's a thin membrane that, of course, like I said, fold under the eyelid and over the sclera. It goes over the sclera to protect it or to prevent particles from getting to the back of the eye. So it doesn't matter how much dust gets into your eye, or if you went to sea or you went to river, the water will not go to the back of the eye, and the dirt particles will not get to the back of the eye. And this is prevented by what we call the conjunctiva. And you might have heard about pink eye. When you go to the doctor, they say that you are suffering from conjunctivitis, right? Now, what conjunctivitis means is that the conjunctiva is inflamed. It has been affected by some foreign stuff, right? So it's a membrane that is in your eye. You're actually looking at it, but you can't see it because it's transparent. You're looking right through it. And then somebody made mention of the cornea. Now, the thing about the cornea forms part of the sclera, and it's the only part of the sclera that is actually transparent. So when you look at the iris and you are looking at the pupil, you are actually looking through the cornea, as if you are as if you went to the mall and you were window shopping and you are looking through that glass and you're seeing the nice clothes on the inside. So you are looking through the cornea, and the cornea is, of course, a part of the sclera, but it is transparent. I do hope you understand. So it's a front transparent part of the sclera through which, of course, light enters the eye. One other thing to know about the cornea is that it is convex. And if it is convex, you will understand later in this lesson that it is helping to bend light. And when we talk about convex, let me just draw it on the paper. I don't want to leave anything to chance. If we say that it is convex, we have convex and concave, but we are working with convex. So the part that the arrow is pointed to, all right, let me just do everything one time. So A is going to be convex and B is going to be concave. All right. So A, the bulge out, is convex, and that sinking part, the depression, is concave. What I tend to do to remember concave, it's like the opening to going into a cave. So if it's concave, you're going in. All right. And if it's convex, you have this buff thing. All right. So the bulge there at the front. So the cornea tend to have a bulge. It is what we refer to as being convex, and it helps to bend light. Another thing to know about the cornea is that it is a part of the sclera. It is transparent, and of course, light passes through it. It is through the cornea that you're looking. You're looking through the conjunctiva, then you look through the cornea, and that is how you're able to see the iris and, of course, the pupil. All right, so we continue, and that is pretty much a lineup as to how light moves through the eye. There's one part we have, so we made mention of the sclera. We said that the sclera is a tough white area of the eye that is, of course, visible from the front of the eye. It gives the eye shape, so it helps to shape the eye. So it's like the eyeball. It's like the eyeball. The sclera is like the eyeball, right? Because it goes pretty much around. All right. It covers more than the front of the eyes. That is something that we need to know. Another thing about another part that we need to know is a part that comes in front of the iris. And this too is transparent. So you might have heard about the anterior portion of the eye, the front part of the eye, where we have, of course, the aqueous humor, which is a liquid that is in the front of the eye, and this liquid helps to give the cornea shape. All right, it is colorless and it is in the front of the eye. Now we spoke about the iris. We said that the iris, there are brightly colored area at the front of the eye, and the iris pretty much controls the opening of the pupil. So it is the iris that controls the size of a pupil. Whether the pupil is small or large, the iris is going to do that. Now, the pupil is simply just a hole in the center of the iris that allow for the passage of light. Aqueous humor, we said up that it's a colorless fluid in the front of the eye, and of course, we talk about it giving the eye, the cornea, shape, and it also helps to bend light. All right, so we're coming up. All that we are looking at today is pretty much the parts of the eye, and then when we get back in class, we're going to be talking more about like light entering the eye and so on. So we're going through these very, very quickly. So then we have like the lens, and the lens help with bending light and bending light, and of course focusing near and distant object. I'm going to tell you now about, and all these that I'm talking about, they are found pretty much at the front of the eye. There's what is called suspensory ligament, and everybody must know ligament. The suspensory ligament are the things that hold the lens in place, right? And they are pretty much affixed to the ciliary body, right? And we have like the ciliary muscle there in the ciliary body. And what the ciliary muscle will do, it will contract or relax in order to change the size of the length. Now, we'll talk more about why it needs to contract or relax to change the size of a lens when we get to class on Wednesday. The aqueous humor is colorless. All right. So then in the middle of the eye, having passed now through all of that, and we pass the lens, and we pass what holds the lens in place, the ciliary muscle, the suspensory ligament, and of course the ciliary muscle, the ciliary body. We get now into this big portion of the eye, this big circle back part of the eye, where we're going to have a jelly-like substance we call the vitreous humor, and this fill pretty much. And if you read your textbook, you might see the posterior portion of the eye. It's pretty much a back part of the eye, and we're going to be having, like I said, this jelly-like substance, and that too helps to give this the eye shape, to maintain the shape of the eye, and it also reduce the reflection that would have been in that area. Now, after we pass that area, there are some parts to the back of the eye now, to the back wall of the eye. We can think of like the choroid. I think the choroid is on one of your multiple choice paper. The purpose of the choroid is to supply oxygen, nutrient, and it also contains black pigment that prevent the reflection of light inside of the eye. So when the light comes in, it's not all over the place. It's focused one place, and pretty much the reflection is reduced by the action of the pigment that are pretty much associated with the choroid. It's important to note that the choroid lies between the sclera and the retina. So it lies right in the middle between the retina on the inside, then you have the choroid, and then you are going to have the sclera. Now, after we would have passed that, now we get into what is called the retina. Now, this is the important part of the eye one might want to say, because this is where we are going to find the light sensitive cells. And these light sensitive cells are called rods and, of course, cones. Now, it is within the retina that light energy, or the light entering the eye, is converted into nerve impulses which are sent to the brain. Now, it's important to note that the rod, the light sensitive cells called rod, they are able to detect black and white, and they are able to work in low light intensity. And that is why in low light intensity, you are not seeing colored very clearly. So if I were supposed to be outside in the dark in this yellow, it would appear to be white rather than being yellow. Now, there are another set of cells that really help us to see colored, and those are called cones, and they are color cell, and of course they work in high light intensity, so they tend to enable you to see more detail. Now, there's what we call the fovea, or the yellow spot, and the fovea contains a high concentration of cones, or cones only one might say, and like I said, more light is of course focused right in that little part you call the fovea, and it helps us to see detail because of the cones which are colored, of course, color light sensitive cell. Then we have what is called the optic nerve, and the optic nerve is going to take impulses to the brain. The optic nerves is going to take impulses to the brain for it to be interpreted. As to how it falls inside the eye, we're going to be dealing with that on Wednesday. But there's a part of the eye, if the image were supposed to fall there, we would not see anything, and that is called the blind spot. And the blind spot is pretty much that spot where light leaves the eye. Now, I'm supposed to tell you a little bit about light entering the eye, and in dim light and all of that. I don't want to do that now. You might be suffering from an information overload. So I'm going to be leaving you with a fancy word and telling you good evening. We have 7 minutes to go, and it wouldn't allow me to do all the. I'm not too sure why you said melanin. Melanin is a word really associated with the skin. Melanin is associated with the skin. All right, so I want you to and we're going to do short-sightedness on Wednesday. So you probably want to save this long-sightedness and the eye defect question on Wednesday, where I can treat with them all. I want to leave you with something though, before I go. We all know about leaving a dark area, entering a light area or a well-lit area, and we have to close the eye and wait on some time to be able to see properly. Now, this is as a result of chemical, what we call visual purple, a dye like visual purple in the eye, or okay, I will look at that. I will look at that. I will look at. I see what you send there. I don't know why the system block it, but I will look at it. Sir, before I go, can you please send your email address? I need you to help me with something. Not a bother, but you can just go to my channel and get it. Go to the back of the channel, learn to do it, because that's where you find the bulk of the video. And click on about when you go there. Scroll down and you'll see email address. Click on email address and you'll see my email address pop up. All right, so we have what is called rhodocin, rhodophin. All right, it's called visual purple. It's this ink that allows us to see, to allow us with that dark light stuff. I'm not getting into the details of that now, but you could just go and do some reading on visual purple. All right, so that is going to take us to the end of class for today. We're going to continue with eye and something else in the next lesson. We're going to finish up eye. We're going to look at accommodation. We're going to look at light entering the eye. We're going to look at common eyesight defects and how we correct them. We're going to look at convex, concave, and so on, and the type of course, lens that we use to treat with the different eye defects. Thanks much for watching. Thanks much for joining. Please carry a friend when you next visit us. Please tell your teachers about us. We are open. We want to have as many persons joining as possible. We are pretty much here to support you and your teacher, not so much to take you away from your teacher. So your teacher can always send everybody over here. I can't see all of you, but of course, I'm here to support you all. Please ensure that you look out for that video tomorrow on the nephron. I think it's a nice, of course, animation of a nephron, and it should be helping a whole lot of persons who are struggling with the nephron. Jawawan, are you here? Did you understand anything? Was it clearer today doing homeostasis than it was on Wednesday, on Friday? Jawawan, are you still with us? All right, so I'm going to say good evening. Pierre, no, sir, I think the dust will come out in the front. Okay, Pierre. Okay, all right, good, great. So it has been a wonderful evening. It's my pleasure being with you again. It was really, really awesome having you all. We went up, we went down. We were able to cover all the stuff that we wanted to cover. Yes, sir, I'm here. I'm asking. You said on Friday that you had a little challenge with the topic, and we went through the topic again. Is it any better today? Is it any better today? Because, like we have said, we're not here to just give you a whole lot of notes. We are here to ensure that you learn, and we will catch up, because once you are learning, we can speed up here and slow down there, and everything should be fine. All right. So again, that's it from me. You'll get a new thumbnail probably tomorrow as to what we'll be covering on Wednesday. Remember to carry all your friends. I understand it. I was getting tie up between temperature regulation and water balance. Oh no, two different things. And use vasodilation for temperature, and of course use the kidney for water balance. All right, so we'll talk more. Bye bye, guys. Bye bye. Okay, so we are going to be doing the rest of the eye, and we're also going to be doing starting coordination and control to see how much of that we can cover. It's a big topic, and a lot of persons might have a little we're going to go right into detail with coordination and control, and it might be a big topic for some persons, but we should have enough to help you to sail through smoothly. Don't No need to worry. All right, bye bye. I'm going to cut the show now.